Here we go. Duvid, we are live, and I completely apologize. I was off on the game, and we were waiting for them to start, and I didn't know they were starting. Then they started, so just flipping through the first game very quickly.
Okay, I like the line hod-konem played. I believe this is one of the best lines against this opening with a6 sacrifice, and he got a winning position, I see. It was a one-sided game.
Okay, so yeah, so extremely apologize. We'll get up to the current situation. So that was the first game. This is the second game with Horus as black, and he does this immediate bishop sacrifice on c4.
It's a common idea, and sometimes I sacrifice my bishop like this too. So you see, the idea is to thin out the d file, and Horus did it, but he can't infiltrate immediately. And usually when I do bishop c4, I infiltrate immediately, so like I do it less often, and when it's more precise. I think black is doing okay here, but I don't see a plan, so Horus has less than 1 minute, hod-konem has around 1 minute. Okay, so he opens up his rook. I think he wants to go queen a8, then white will have to go a4, then he will go queen takes a4, queen takes c4.
Yeah, so it's not a forced breakthrough, although the pawn on c4 falls, and it's unlikely that white could make any progress on the queen side. Although on the king side, I would say maybe this is about equal or slightly favoring white. Just to mention, I'm sorry, we technical difficulty. The match started late, and then I didn't realize it started. So I'm here. This is the grand final. It was a double elimination knockout. So what happened in the first round, Horus beat Hode, but it was double elimination. So Hode worked his way back, and like here we have Matvei, that Hode defeated Matvei in the semifinals, and then the final match, Hode beat Horus, but because it's double elimination, he has to beat him twice, as Horus was undefeated. In this match, I believe, will be 20 games, not 10 games. So we have here Matvei, who joined last year, also one of the top competitors who did not quite make the finals, but was in the semifinals this year and last year, to provide expert commentary.
Okay, so you can see this is some sort of holding pattern from Horus, and also the f3 pawn can't move because queen controls e4, so hod-konem tries to lure the queen away, and now he can play f4, and he's still advancing with his pawns. Okay, he wants to go b4, I think. b4 takes, c3, queen a4, he can infiltrate without sacrificing his knight. That's interesting.
Yeah, the king side pawns are relatively not advanced, and advancing on the king side takes many moves, because each pawn could take 6-8 moves to get any attack.
I'm afraid he could have just taken on a4, and then you can. Oh, I forgot you can't on
there's no
that,
en
I think.
passant. So if he had taken on a4, pushing the pawn to a3, and there's no
right.
en passant from the first rank,
lucky.
it's a common thing that happens to many Horde players, thinking that they're going to be able to do en passant and not. It's happened to me many times. But yeah, en passant works on the second pawn moves from the second rank, not from the first rank, even though in Horde the pawns could move 2 from the first rank. And I'm not sure. Yeah, he probably has to sack the rook right away.
I think Horus is going for the second queen. There is no other way he can win this. But he might be too slow.
Yeah, I think it's good for black, like I said, because the kingside pawns were not advanced at all, and it's going to take multiple moves. So even if Horus has to sacrifice his first queen, there's still play left in the game, but yeah, I would put this maybe like 80-90% favorite for Horus. Obviously you got these two moves coming quickly, but
he can go queen a2, I think.
a queen there
Also possible this.
and back, and then you have the second queen coming, and the second queen could probably start eating the pawns from the back. Well, I would say that Hode's first round black win was more convincing. I'm assuming that Horse is still likely to win this, although there is still play left, and even though he has 2 queens, Hode could still win this. And even if Horus does win this, it's much less
Eventually,
convincing.
Horus must give up 1 queen. Then the question is, how does he do it so he is still winning? It's
Well,
complicated. Okay, so 1 queen is sacrificed, and I think this should be winning for black.
yeah, I mean, just the pawns
maybe
are
not.
really slow.
I wondered why he didn't go h7, g6 when he had the possibility. Okay, he does it now. And this way, it's tough to say who's winning.
Yeah, I mean, if he could get c6, c7, and then this pawn to c5, white is probably winning, although sometimes the queen could hold Zugzwang from the dark squares. So both sides have very little time. Horus really needs to win. So that
Okay, f6 was possible now, but he doesn't go f6 for some reason. Also, the c5 pawn is very useful, so the queen has to control those squares as well. So you can just go c7, then f6, f7. I expect c7 now. That's strange because, okay, f6 is still happening, I think. Right. Okay, this is completely winning. Why didn't he go f6? I'm really confused.
Yeah, I think black is winning easily now.
We should analyze this.
Or maybe not, though. So he goes for the draw.
Okay. Yeah, it's draw now.
Yeah, I mean, if you have time, we'll stick around and go over all the games afterwards. So because the time control is relatively quick, we'll stick with the live games. Anybody watching, is free to check the computer and post it in the chat. But hopefully we're going to get interviews from both players after the games and go over all the games like last time. So here we have I'll call the mainstream
queenside infiltration so far.
Yeah, so this is
v6. Right.
This is main 9 theory that has been tested and tried in
but most
the
people
World
take
Championship.
bc5.
Yeah, but there's slightly different lines. I'll call this the main 9 most straightforward black strategy that has been part of World Championship matches from the inception, just the immediate breakthrough on the A file. And theory has changed a little bit. There's slight variations in the lines, but so here we have the most straightforward of all of the Horde strategies for black, the immediate A file, and in this variation, there's often sufficient counterplay on the king side for white. Often you'll see c6 here and a sacrifice of the bishop. And when I was playing years ago, the best theory that I think we actually ran with me and More Chess on the computer Crazy Ara was to just let the pawn take the bishop and take back with the king. But now the theory's changed.
e6 is surprising. Like, Horus spent a lot of time on move 13. I thought he would have prepared a bit further in this line if he played so quickly, because like they had knight b6 happen in multiple games. And this is the reason why I prefer b takes c5 to d takes c5, because you see now there is only one d5 pawn, and it's like the counterattack isn't as easy to execute now for white. I expect hod-konem to win this.
Yeah, you would think with this would be prep. So, this is a main line. Playing into this, you would expect that he had preparation. So if this is not his preparation, or if he messed up his preparation, it's a bad sign, and not good for Horus. If this is his preparation, like we'll see, maybe that white does have a small advantage. The kingside attack can come very quickly in these lines. The question's, does he want to get the D pawn up right away, or he has probably has to save the E pawn also. So he gives up the E pawn. Surprising. I mean, he could continue the attack with just this pawn. I mean, it's conceivable that there's some sort of kingside attack, even giving up this pawn, the E pawn, and not using the pawn on D3. But I think, like Matvei was saying, most mainline strategies in this line require a strong center.
Okay, so the queen is a bit caught up here. He should probably.
Hode was scared to take on E1.
F1.
I mean, why wouldn't Hode just take it on E1?
Strange move. But
I mean, it's hard to imagine that taking on E1 wasn't the best move. I can't see what advantage at all Hode got from doing queen takes C2 as opposed to just the obvious taking on E1. I mean, maybe he was seeing ghosts, or maybe Horus does have some preparation. There is a dangerous attack here. I guess I like white now. It just doesn't make sense to me that he took on C2 like that.
Yeah, I mean, white doesn't have much play on the queen side because of black's 2 pawns. And now they, with one e5 pawn left, they can't really pose immediate threats on the king side either. I think we just have queen takes C3. He wants to take on F6 now, so probably F7 coming. Okay, maybe there are some shenanigans with like D6 and so on, if the rook doesn't do anything.
Using not taking the knight and playing D6 right away.
Yeah.
Okay, goes for that. And then I guess the knight can come to F6 if that even helps.
I think
pushing D7 is probably not the right idea. Just pushing C5 and maybe trying to advance on the king side more. It's dangerous for black, but it's probably winning for black. Although I'm not sure about that. I mean, now...
Okay, this should be winning for black.
Yeah, I'm not sure if F6 made more sense than taking the knight there.
Yeah, but there is no immediate threat. If knight just goes away, E7 isn't possible, D7 doesn't threat anything.
Yeah, it's probably losing no matter what.
Okay, queen goes to F6. Now, if you push the G pawn, F7 is lost, but then you have G7. It's complicated. And Horus is very low on time. He has to move quickly now.
Can he just push B5? Oh no,
not anymore. Not anymore.
I mean, could he? Was that a move before? Was B5 winning before? Or he stopped it in time?
I don't know. We should probably analyze afterwards. Okay, so now white is definitely lost.
Yeah, it was probably winning for black the whole time. He just takes on.
I don't know why he didn't trade on G5 first. Now, if white manages to get a pawn to F6, they should be winning.
Can he? And obviously the rook.
Why is he going for those pawns? Because now you just have G5, F6.
Then Hode's low on time also, and we saw in the first one that Hode. Was that just? I mean, you could,
that was a tough decision, I think. But if you
I'm
take
sure
the
he could
queen on
just take
E7,
that,
king
but
takes.
he's probably okay. He probably at least has a draw here, but
no, white is winning now because you can't go king F8 because it's just promotion.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that queen's. I mean, yeah, I guess at this point. Okay, so props to Horus getting a win there with white, and I gotta say, like, we'll have to look or ask in the interview afterwards because I'm not sure that was prep, and that looked pretty clearly that black was winning. However, Hode got in time control and fumbled in the end game.
Yeah, oftentimes, even if black is better, you can easily mess up the end game, and only the engine says, like, it always sees the winning move, but it's not so obvious. And now the score is even.
Yeah, and
Knight takes
forced at black.
c5. I think we have the Diablo Fortress now. Basically, black just wants to set up a fortress with pawns on dark squares, so h6, f6, b6. Usually you don't sacrifice the bishop, but if white takes, they will only have two d5 pawns.
Yeah, and this embedded pawn on c5 that so often in these lines is a question: are you better off to play f6 or not? This one's probably
Yeah, it's
dangerous.
the only idea is to make a fortress, basically. Maybe he can wait with his pawns and shuffle like this, but I don't know, white will go h6, and then they will have a pawn on f6 and so on. So I think h6 should be played for black. Another question is, how do you defend your c5 pawn? What do you do there?
Yeah, so maybe the rook goes back and forth, or maybe he wants to reposition the bishop on b7 first, but at some point we're likely to see a shuffle. So he does go for f6 also with the dark square strategy. I don't really have a good heuristic, uh, but you often, if you check the computer analysis or lines, playing f6 or not playing f6 is the critical decisions. Like playing h6 is almost always the right idea. F6 is more strategical and hard to decipher.
I think in this position, Stockfish would always say white is better, but then if you analyze further, eventually it will say, okay, maybe only +1, maybe even if black eventually wins some pawns.
Yeah, now you have the E and D files potentially being thinned out with
Yeah.
and should white try to push in the center, it's unlikely that he can without clearing one of the files. So likely you're going to see um, everything open up, and sometimes in these lines, it's even the A or H file that eventually you break through on because white just doesn't want to open in the center. So
Yeah, so what's
likely Hode will
interesting,
play these moves at some point in the next few moves with
yeah. Like
voice.
black controls g5 well. e5, I don't think it's an issue. d4 isn't an issue because you can't capture d takes c5. But about b4, it's nice that the black queen controls b4. Then I don't think b4 is a good idea for white anymore, but then you have to sacrifice eventually.
Yeah, it's really a Zugzwang for general horde strategy. White, like I was talking with Rune or more, like go, you have a pass. If white had a pass in this situation, he probably wouldn't want to make a move. But there's no pass in chess, so white is probably going to have to make all four of these moves.
Yeah,
The
eventually.
question is which one should he make first, and how should black reply? And that's the level of championship play of the imbalances and trying to get your opponent
Okay,
slightly
now
off
he
balance.
has a choice between rook takes and pawn takes g5. He takes with the pawn. Okay, it's interesting what hod-konem will try to do on the king side. They trade g4. The queen can go to h4 now, potentially. He sacrifices the rook.
It just
I
seems
think you gotta take the rook. And f4. Okay.
get the tempo. I mean, the knight. I'm not sure. Maybe that's the idea.
Yeah, the center may be weak now. Okay, now he goes b4. We have takes, 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 takes. You can go b3 probably.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
so when you're
then,
white in these type positions, this is your strategy. Is you just start pushing, and it looks like your opponent's going to break through on one side. Sometimes they do, and then you start pushing on the other side in center, and hope that at some point you're going to be able to have the pawns rolling through. So here, if Hode doesn't even want to take the rook, he figures that's going to be too dangerous, so he wants to rapidly advance his pawns on the queen side where there's only the rook and bishop and pawn to stop it. But in reality, the queen could come back this way, but that's not what the queen wants to do. The queen wants to get behind the pawns somehow and start eating them from behind.
Someone pointed out in the chat that the time control was 3 plus 2, not 2 plus 2.
No, Horde they do 2+2. Like in most Lee-chess like weekly and the Shield, the Crazy House Finals is 3+2, but for whatever reason, Horde has always been 2+2.
Yeah, but in the rules this year we established that it's 3 plus 2, but I think they probably forgot. Okay, so back to the game. Horus has infiltrated, but White has many pawns everywhere on like, every file. You can counterattack on the king side. You can go c6, b6.
Yeah, I like Black
Okay,
here.
so you
He
have
still
a
has
pawn
the
chain
rook.
from c2 to g6.
He still
I
has the
think
rook and the bishop.
both
The queen
under
side
time
is not
trouble.
advanced.
I think White can win this.
Yeah, we'll see. Now they're both in significant time trouble, as we mentioned in the first match I streamed, where Hode was getting quite a bit on the head on the clock each game. So now we're not seeing this, although maybe Hode is playing a little bit faster. All of the games have basically came down to time trouble on both sides.
Okay, so he manages to get his pawns on the dark squares. I think we can.
But
Yeah, he just takes on g5. But then White has time to go e5. So we have another pawn chain from a1 to g7 now.
there's no threat.
He sacks the bishop.
Because pushing here, the king just takes and the rook covers the back
Yeah,
square.
right.
So
Okay, so he went b6 so that he could go d6, but Horus ignored this. And now I think Horus may be winning this if he wins the h5 pawn, because you can't allow h7, obviously. Okay, so the queen has spent some time, and now you could not take rook takes a6 because king can't defend g8 and e8.
queen
And
could come
now you
back.
have these two dangerous pawns.
Now if he pushes here, he could take on a6. I think he could have taken a6 there, but he didn't.
No, I mean, you can't take on a6 with the rook. As I said, the king would be overwhelmed.
In these positions, if black could just prevent two pawns from next to each other, because like the rook could prevent single pawns from advancing.
I think Horus is getting overwhelmed here. b7, queen takes a7, now d7, simply okay, c6 also works, now g7, and then, yeah, now you can just go, yeah, d8 queen, right, so white is winning this. That was tough.
Yeah, these games are all getting down to time trouble, and so likely there were blunders on both sides where, if you look, we'll check with the computer after it's over. So likely there were blunders on both sides, but we're getting some exciting matches there. Okay, so this is a little different line than we're used to seeing, which appears to.
Okay, so this is a gambit where black allows e6, so the bishop on f8 is blocked, but then black wins a pawn for it. And the question is, how do you get rid of this e6 pawn? Maybe queen d6, maybe you ignore it, maybe you shuffle. We will see what they do.
And what happens if white just locks it up? I mean, I guess this is a critical decision, so he doesn't do anything in the center or queen side and puts it back to black what they're going to do.
Okay, I see black has space on the queen side. Maybe he will go queen a5 and then even go knight takes a4, queen takes a4.
Or you could go
Again,
for
the question is how to develop your king side. So eventually you have to get rid of this e6 pawn. But for now, maybe he wants to do a rook lift, right? Like rook c5, rook a5. I think it's possible here. I don't know what hod-konem is up to.
Yeah, I have a hard time picturing this being booked. I mean, maybe
Okay.
there's a forced breakthrough on the queen side, like unless
Yeah, I
Hode has
see
some.
you can go knight takes a4, takes eggs, and then you can do the rook lift. So rook will go to a5 as well, and then you can sack on a3. So black has infiltration, and I think in this case, black should be winning because they have all the pieces on the king side to defend from the counterattack. So just queen a6, rook c5, rook a5, rook a3.
Yeah, and often, like, so you want to do it as quick as possible. So if you have the breakthrough, it's almost always better to do it as quick as possible. Sometimes there's good delay moves. So if that was the plan, I mean, maybe he wants to play h6. Like I said, h6 is usually a preferable move to force a pawn sacrifice to advance on the g file. So in most cases, you do end up wanting to advance the a or h pawn in these holding situations. Um,
Yeah, but there is like a rule of thumb. If you are getting attacked as black, you usually don't want to move your pawns. But of course, there are exceptions. But I don't think h6 is necessarily, but I wouldn't say it's bad either. Now we have f6. I think the reason for this is like if they would shuffle, if black had taken on e6 or g6, white would have advanced all their f pawns, but now they can't advance as far. And it seems hod-konem was just shuffling because white isn't Zugzwang. They will run out of moves very soon.
yeah, so maybe this was the plan all along and not the breakthrough. And we saw something in the last match that Hode won with the holding pattern like this, where he could have sacrificed and broke through on by sacrificing on the C file and chose not to, and just to you keep on zugzwanging. So yeah, at this point it's likely to just
White exchanged a few pawns, so now you have d6. d7 would win a whole rook. That's tough.
Yeah, you got to question whether this is book or not. I mean, now
Also, an interesting thing to point out, white can't advance on the g file anymore, because if you go g4, now if a black queen goes to the h file, you easily get infiltration without sacrificing rooks. He sacks on e6, so now I think the queen is coming to e6, and when the queen is on e6, you can go back with the rook, and then queen h3 is a threat, so maybe white will have to go f5, but then you have to defend your e5 pawn. d4, he defends the e5 pawn, but now c4 is hanging. Many pawns hanging. Okay, he takes on e7 first. I don't think this was necessary. You could have ignored that. It's tough to say, but I think black should be better now. They have too many pieces. e4 hanging. Yeah, I mean, it's completely losing for white. You gotta play f3, then queen just goes back. Again, you can force infiltration without sacrificing your rook. Yeah, it's completely lost. Okay, interesting game.
okay. So Hode now to a 3.5, 1.5 lead. That game was pretty decisive as opposed to the other game where there were quite a few blunders towards the end and could have went either way. That was basically a strategic crush beginning to end, likely preparation. So we'll see if we see that line again. I don't think, I mean, Matvei was able to figure out the idea behind it pretty quickly, although it might have been a new preparation for this match.
He just sacked his pawn on e5. Maybe it's misclick, maybe he is tilting. But if you sacrifice one pawn, I don't think black is as good as in usual Horde anymore. Okay, so he just goes for bishop e7, h6. This is just straightforward infiltration on the h file. But when white has a pawn on d6, it's not so easy to execute, I think.
Yeah, if he took on g6, then b5 would prevent infiltration. Even here, it's looking.
Yeah, you have queen h8, but then white just goes h4, and then white is able to defend everything. And the knight can't really help because g6 pawn covers both h7 and f7, so the knight cannot go to g5. If the knight could go to g5, it would infiltrate. Okay,
Well,
but
the
now
problem is the
still,
pawn can't push to f3, so this might
yeah,
be.
you want to go knight g4, and white can't take because their pawn is on h1. If you go h2, takes, g3, queen h3, black also infiltrates. So maybe you should just ignore the knight on g4, I believe. Okay, he doesn't ignore the knight. Okay, so maybe hod-konem is hoping he can get enough counterplay on the g, f, and e files. Because on the queen side, his attack has no chance, really.
We have the basic heuristic that I think Cinnamon had originated of, or maybe even goes back to Svenos, of breaking through on the A or H file within 20 moves. That often, if you break through within 20 moves, the black is winning. After 20 moves, black is losing. It's just a heuristic. In this case, the question is there a kingside attack? Do these kingside pawns actually matter? Is there a way to take advantage, or can the king protect it at some point? White's going to have to push e6, and that's going to allow the bishop out. And so, in essence, black could really just start eating the pawns from behind with very little to worry about. Or maybe he is worried and he wants to leave his queen there to prevent pushing d5. But often you want to just go for it. You just want to start nibbling the pawns as soon as possible. And the preparatory moves, sometimes they're important, but often as a heuristic, the moving your pieces around to better prepare for them is often not as good as just starting to eat the pawns up.
Okay, so the queen went away. Now d5, e6 is possible. And then white will eventually go to e7, so you have to exchange the pawns. Then the black minor pieces can also get involved. Okay, he doesn't go for e6 immediately for some reason.
Okay, so now we come in this way. Almost
Okay,
definitely
must take the pawn now.
He has to take in order to
Yes.
free up the rook. He doesn't have to take twice.
Yeah, if you take once, e7 is not possible. You just go bishop d7 in that case.
Yeah, so that probably is him best taking the g6 pawn. I mean, he could have taken like this.
Yeah, also possible.
But I guess he needed the strong center, so he sacrificed the g pawn for it. Horus could sacrifice the knight right away, as we saw in your match that you lost. Sometimes playing here or moving your king into an area where it could get tempoed is worse. So, I mean, maybe playing king here is best right away. Sometimes, but often it's worse because it allows a tempo on your king. Okay, so now, yeah, this looks winning. Oh, there's still play. I'm saying whether black should try to get behind, eating these pawns from behind immediately, bring the king over, try to sacrifice the rook or something for the advanced pawns. I mean, here wins the rook right away. So c7 forces the rook trade for 2 pawns.
Okay, so now you only have the queen left, but I think white pawns haven't advanced enough that they pose a threat to Horus. So I think this should be light work for him.
The king on the A and B files is preventative. To advance both the E and D pawns together it's going to take like 5 or 6 moves. And even the queen here that on the G file, okay, he takes right away, and that gets a tempo. This G pawn could advance at some point too, but it's pretty slow, 5-6 moves. So white needs to start eating up these pawns, and it's slow from the base. Like this pawn on A3 is going to be able to defend the whole base of these pawns, and you got to takes 4 moves just to get to it.
Queen
So
d1 is strange, but I think he just wants to go for e2 d3. So that makes sense.
yeah, he'll be able to eat this pawn up, and then you're just going to have the 3 pawns, and there's only the 1 C pawn.
Yeah, but the question is, black will have to clean up the e file, the g file, and then if white manages to get this sort of pyramid, like c7, b6, a7, then it's not so clear. But with one c file pawn, black should probably be winning. Like if you just put your king on b8, if you have c7, a7, black will just go to b7 with their king. There will be Zugzwang.
Yeah, queen here
And
may.
at the very least, I believe there should be like at least some sort of stalemate. If they, okay, not anymore, but yeah, it was a possibility.
Oh.
Okay, now, yeah, black is winning here because with one c5 pawn you can't do anything. Okay, so nice win for Horus, but very strange opening, I must say.
Yeah, staying in the match. It's we'll find out. Hopefully, he'll do an interview and find out if there's going to be if that was just a mouse slip or if that was some sort of prep or psychological even. Maybe it's a semi-neutral sacrifice where sacrificing the pawn's not actually that bad and it was psychological. So Hode, he has an important black here, and he goes with the e5 back. So maybe this is psychological. It is some sort of prep.
This reminds me of Hikaru and Magnus, where they did a double bank cloud. It's just the same level, like you just sack the pawn for nothing, and in the finals, it's unbelievable. But we have the same strategy now, so we will see if hod-konem manages to infiltrate as well.
It's somewhat a mirror version of Hode's last opening with the holding strategy on the queen side. Although I think here there's a direct breakthrough.
Yeah, I think he's going for h5 infiltration as well. Like you want to take on e5 because fe, white will only have one f5 pawn, so either Horus has to take on f6 or he will go d4, fe, de.
Yeah, as of now, this is the exact same, right? Is this still the exact same moves? Now I think it's different, but up to move 10, it was I think the exact same as the previous game.
Yeah, similar ideas and such.
This often, I think you lost a Hode, or there was often. It takes a lot of moves to use your rook to grab that pawn on g7, and like the 20 move heuristic here, we're rapidly approaching it, and the breakthrough is still not apparent.
Yeah, but in my opinion, the 20 move mark may have some effect, but what matters the most is how far the white pawns have advanced and how much pieces the black has left. In this case, if hod-konem infiltrates, maybe within 10 moves he should be winning, even if he sacrifices all of his knight, rook, and queen. Now it seems like he wants to take on g4.
Not even sure how that helps.
He knight to f7. Maybe he wants to shuffle. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to presume. I mean, unless Hode does an interview or says that something did not go according to plan, although he still has a shuffle holding pattern here. Maybe white is slightly better at still play, but I have to imagine things did not go according to Hode's plan, that he probably
I
did think he has.
think hod-konem might go for queen h8, h4, takes. Then knight will go to h6, attacking the pawn. Because again, you can't defend this. Okay, so we have g5.
But there's no
Now,
threat. Knight g5 doesn't even threaten anything.
no. There was a threat. He allowed infiltration. I wasn't expecting this. Just e2. You had e2, but
Oh, so it was
he
just a
probably missed
blunder.
that. He must have missed.
It was just
Horus
a
must have
blunder. I mean,
missed that. He
e2
just
is
hanged the pawn.
e2 is completely fine.
Yeah, it's probably the nerves. I think. I mean, it's the finals. Okay, but now it's 4-2.
So, like I said, if it Hode was psychological there, so he's winning. I don't think it was working out like he had planned there, but you're psychologically okay. So now we have the mainstream breakthrough variation again. We'll see if he takes the bishop or pushes d4, and we get knight g6 again. So probably going to see this again, but let's see if we see something different. Okay, so
e6. I used to play the mirrored version of this, basically when black infiltrates on the king side and you go d6. But in this case, it's easier for black because the queen is closer to the a file. So I think knight b6 should be okay. But also like moves like bishop f8 are definitely also possible. I
in
think the
this
line would be like knight b6. You can take the bishop, then knight takes a4. You just easily infiltrate. So probably knight b6, then you have a5, but then black can sacrifice their pieces and go b6. Okay, we have bishop f8 more cautiously.
yeah, so the e file now is quite thin. You might see like f6 or c6 or just some holding strategy focusing on the e file or even the d file that could switch into. So here's a question like whether c6 or just to bring the bishop back. He
Rook
sacrifices
sacks.
right away.
I think I remember this idea. Like if you take queen a8, b3, you can take with the bishop on b5 because then you will go to a3 with your queen. So b takes rook, queen a8, b3, bishop takes, pawn takes bishop, queen a3. And you don't have to take the bishop, but then the bishop will capture on a4 itself, and we should not forget that f1 would be hanging. c6. Okay, so we have takes. And I think Horus might attempt to infiltrate using his knight. So say knight e7, knight c6, knight a7, knight b5. If the knight goes to b5, you have easy infiltration. I don't see any other way, to be honest.
Yeah, so bringing the knight to a3 will infiltrate. This is probably good for black.
Yeah,
Like
it
we're
must
right
be
around
winning.
move 20, but like I said, the pawns in the center and the queen side are not advanced, so he doesn't take the knight, which
b2, knight takes c2, a4, but black should still infiltrate. I mean, if white plays with their pawns on the queen side, if black jumps around with their knight, nobody is getting any
Well, I mean,
time.
not only does he infiltrate, he holds on to the knight.
I was expecting knight takes c2, to be honest, but knight b1, I'm not so sure. Okay, he wants to go knight takes c3. I should still do it.
Queen coming in. Is that a waste?
Now probably you gotta take on f6, then bishop takes b4. Okay. Maybe Horus can castle, and he probably doesn't need to sacrifice any further pieces to infiltrate. But again, with your knight stuck on b1, not very effective.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
he
time
goes to c3.
staying about
Maybe
even in time here. Neither Hode is not gaining time advantages. So Horus has been able to figure something out where he's not getting into time trouble like he was in the first match.
okay, d4 is hanging. We have e3. He captures on a4. That's a little bit strange, but yeah, white counterattack may be dangerous, but I think black should still be better.
Yeah,
With
the
the bishop, it helps.
bishop's a good defender, better than the knight possibly. The queen could just start gobbling.
I don't really see the point behind d5 because you can support the d5 pawn. It just gets lost after queen takes c4.
Yeah, you might as well just grab the d5 pawn and the bishop. So you can just fully sacrifice the rook like that.
Yeah, I think Horus can easily convert this.
It's probably safe to just start eating the pawn slowly. But no, he takes on c2. So he could also just bring his queen back. If he doesn't play f3 here immediately, he could just bring the queen back and advance the c pawn. Maybe just queen. Okay, yeah, that's fine too. And we bring the queen to to f4 is pretty powerful, but he doesn't have to. He could just queen the pawn. Yeah, that basically hampers any attempts. Yeah, so just too slow. Takes the queen's on it. It's not even a threat.
Not really. Okay, I don't think hod-konem is going to give up. Maybe he still will. Yeah, okay, he does.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay,
sure
so now
that
we
was
have 4-3.
a decisive victory, but that was a pretty clean victory. Hode might have made some sort of mistake, so it's unfortunate Horus had that blunder with that game. But the match is keeping relatively close with Hode. But let's see if Horus could even it out with a white victory.
Yeah, the thing is, the opening was weak in my opinion. Like e6, knight e6 is not the best way to play it. He was probably taken out of preparation, but Horus still managed to gain an advantage. F takes, G takes f5, excuse me. Now I like to go for h6 in these positions and try to infiltrate basically.
And sometimes you want to get a5 in to slow the future progress on the queen side, but here he's going to go for immediate pressure on the king side. So a quick c6 to prevent the knight from developing.
I think hod-konem wants to go g5, then he can infiltrate on the h5 without sacrificing any pieces, and if he has 3 pieces left, it should be completely winning.
Yeah, so probably I mean, either f4 or h4 to prevent that, or just accepting that and going for immediate queenside pressure. Okay, so h4, he probably sacks the rook. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, he sacked the rook. And, the knight. So, last time Horace, in that e5 pawn sacrifice opening, looked like he had prevented a breakthrough. There was still quite, but here it doesn't look like there's a breakthrough coming here.
If he goes knight to g5, but then white has to go f4 to prevent knight g5. Once he goes f4, you attack the g4 pawn again, I think.
Yeah, so he could provoke the weakness of provoking f4 and then coming backward.
He allows knight h3. That's strange, because with 3 pieces left, white can't do anything. It's completely in KO.
So we're going to see the breakthrough here. I mean, you could try these moves. Not sure they help. Like Horace said, he has the knight, bishop, and rook, and 2 pawns on the queen side.
Yeah, I expected at least f4, then knight back to h6, but okay, probably there is little difference there. Yeah, now it looks like hod-konem will have 5.5. In this case, I think he wins the match.
Is it 20 games for the finals? Grand finals, or it's just 10 games?
Is it?
I mean, previous years the grand finals was 20 games, although I don't know if you're. I mean, there might be some hope that if he takes the pawn that he's still defending somehow. Okay,
Yeah,
so
not really.
d4 prevents that.
Not anymore. You can still en passant, but then the bishop is involved as well.
Oh, the queen has to get off the file to capture that, so the breakthrough's taking some time, so your white could continue advancing on the queen side. So I mean, Horace is playing his toughest here, and it's probably technically a win for black, but there'll be a lot of opportunity on a queen side attack for black to not find the best defense.
Yeah, but hod-konem will have to blunder if he is to lose this game, really. You could just have knight takes f2.
Okay,
then if h4, you capture on e4, I think. Yeah, should do it. Takes f3. Then maybe there will be f5. Yeah, I don't think it's better for black to lose their bishop in any way. Yeah, just bishop's back. Queen g7, g4, queen.
I mean, Horace made a game out of this, so we're almost on move 30, and there hasn't been a breakthrough yet.
Yeah, just
queen
g7, g4, queen h7, h5, then you infiltrate still.
I mean, it takes a long time when you have this h pawn. I gotta say, I like white. Like I said, Matvei was almost certainly right. It's technically winning. But I mean, there's no way there's no way this was the best continuation. Hode definitely should have been able to break through much earlier. And now we're already past move 30. The queenside pawns are advancing, and there is the danger that when he comes around, he does have this runner on the H file. So, yeah, I gotta say I favor white here. I mean, there was some unfortunate turn of events. You don't think it's winning for white now? But yeah, we'll go over all these games hopefully, and you'll see where their change of events are.
And now rook takes b7, I believe.
He has to, otherwise.
I hope he doesn't blunder c7. Yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, there is still some play if white manages to plant their pawns onto a6, b5. Then you must not forget about the h pawn as well. There are still chances.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that he he could have tried to advance the c pawn, but I mean, the c pawn was really far back. Now you have the protection here. I mean, the very immediate threat of just a6, a7. You even try pushing the pawn. Try pushing the pawns to prevent the king from getting to.
I believe black should still be winning. I guess you can just... Okay, I don't think moving the knight was necessary, but okay. Yeah, like the king controls b8 files completely. The queen and knight should be able to win all these pawns remaining.
He probably has. Can he take the knight? Okay, and there's just a few seconds on each side. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for either side to go wrong. The knight does not really have anywhere good to move. And what's preventing the pawn from just...
Okay, that's interesting. He manages to go here.
And I don't... Okay, now we can't play. I mean,
Yeah, but with e5, you can go g6.
next move. This looks game
Oh.
over.
I think Horus might win this.
And I think g6 is winning. And he's gaining time, or create this situation that he can't even shuffle.
Yeah, I think Horus is moving to gain time now. I think hod-konem is going for stalemate, but you just
can't
go
because
a7
just
with
push.
check. Yeah, it's just check, so probably over.
Okay, so Horus evens up the match. He gets that crucial win with the white pieces. Props to him. I'm not sure, is this... I'll put in the chat if is this... I think it's a 20-game match. If not, it's 4.5, 4.5.
I think Dude says it's only 10 games. He said in the chat. Yeah, 10 games.
He said it's only 10 games?
Yeah. So now, if
But you have to win
anyone
by
gets
2.
5.5, they win the match, I think.
I think you have to win by 2. I'm not sure the rules.
Yeah, you only win by 2 if you get to 5, 5. Okay, we have a5, h5, d5, e6. I think Horus is going for knight a7. Yes.
Okay, so this is a huge advantage to Horus then. If according to the rules, whoever wins this game wins the match. The only way there will be overtime is if there is a draw. So Horus has the black.
A famous line. Mindhunter goes g6 here, and basically the thing is, this is completely winning for black. I believe the right maneuver is to go with d8 with the bishop, and then it's really complicated, but if black makes no mistakes, it's winning for them.
Yeah, so Mindhunter, you're just like the GOAT or something. You think if Mindhunter was around today, these players would beat him because he's out of practice. And even thinking like Cinnamon beat Mindhunter because he didn't take him seriously. He didn't do enough prep for that match. And but yeah, so now we're going back to old school lines. The question at the top of the game, are the people making advancement in this theory, or are they actually just playing worse understanding of theory than was known in the past? And like obviously you can't expect the players to know every line, the latest theory. I mean, you can in regular chess, but the level of Horde variance is usually the top players are not, they don't have new lines in every single major variation, and often they're misplaying previously understood lines.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe that up to move 20 they have prepared all this. I mean, maybe it's just my preparation that doesn't go as far, but I really don't think, like, they must have prepared these ideas, but the exact moves, not necessarily. In this case, black has no pawns left, but the queen is already in.
It'd be
3 pieces
diminishing
left.
returns to spend like 4 hours a day studying Horde to have new lines in every major variation, which at this point no one's put that amount of work into. But yeah, this with simple technique, the queen, these pawns are going to take a long time. The queen's going to just eat these pawns one by one, and then start coming from this way. It's unclear the best method to get an attack for white. Black could probably just let him take the bishop. I mean, so the idea is if he'd push b6 to just let him take, or maybe sacrifice the knight on c6, and then all these pawns are going to fall because the other pawns are not advanced. The sacrifice on g6 was an interesting idea to allow the e-pawn or more pressure in the center. So we'll see if the g6 sacrifice makes a difference if these e-pawns get into the game.
Okay, Horus has been thinking for a while, but they both have around 1 minute.
Yeah, it's a good place to use his time. So Horus actually got ahead on time, so I don't think this went the way Hode had planned. And so strategically using his time. So, I mean, presumably b6, the king is just going to come over. Here also, the king is probably just going to play d8. And then we might see a knight sacrifice on c3. Yeah, this doesn't...
Okay, now DC, b7 is threatened. You can probably take on c6, or this is also possible. Now, hod-konem must take, then knight takes, looks winning for black, to be honest.
Yeah, because he's going to lose the pawn on b6 also. I'm not sure why he had to... He didn't have to push b6. I mean, he could have tried advancing some of the queenside pawns first, but by doing that immediately, he's going to lose the b6 pawn also.
Just a draw.
The what?
There has been a draw offer. They can play this game.
Yeah, it looks like Horus offered the draw. I guess that's just for overtime, and that's ironic because he had a complete easy win there. And according to the rules, he would... I don't know, complete easy, but according to the rules, he could have been champion. But interesting move, Horus. They're offering the draw. I don't know. I mean, ironically, Horus and Hode, I guess, even though we have a Ukraine versus Russia match, I think Horus and Hode are actually friends. So no one that I've spoken to really knows Hode. I think of anyone, Horus knows Hode the best. I think like maybe Daenerys or some of the other players know Hode.
I believe both are Russians.
Yeah, but obviously Horus is playing for the Ukrainian flag. So it's a interesting sign offering the draw there. Hopefully he'll do an interview. We'll definitely ask him about that because I would have had to assume that he had 80-90% winning chances there. And according to Dude, that would have been a game set match.
Okay, now if takes, you have b5, and then black can infiltrate easily. So maybe Horde doesn't capture the pawn. Let's see.
Is it h4? And probably f4 is the pawn on d4 is not defended yet, although the knight doesn't really have a good move. Yeah, these are the lines I used to get into when I played, and DJ Abner played some lines like this in Hode, and I think both of them relatively had good success against me in these lines for black. I was never, although when I studied or really looked into it, I was able to occasionally win with white or prevent the breakthrough or even get some wins off of Hode in this line, but not often.
Okay, they have been thinking for a while. Okay, he goes back with the bishop. If he goes for infiltration, it's still possible to go rook a7, queen a8, obviously. Then maybe he can put his knight on b5 again. Yeah, he's going for infiltration.
How does the knight get to b5? Or, I mean, isn't it possible that he's going to...
Yeah, a3, not so sure, because bishop f4 might be a threat. White will definitely lose a pawn or two. Yeah, so takes, c4 isn't possible because of bishop b4. So now you lose on b5. If you lose on b5, you have knight b8, knight c6, knight a7, knight b5.
I'm still not seeing it. I don't see the forced breakthrough.
Yeah, again, knight c7, knight b5.
Oh, I say you can't.
Okay, now it's probably takes on b4, and then I expected to have the bishop left because then you have bishop
I'm still
d2.
not seeing the forced break. I mean, I guess still not seeing the forced breakthrough here.
Probably you go to a5 with the queen. There must be something. Queen a5. d2 doesn't work because of knight c2. Queen a5,
A5,
c3.
A5, D2, and then
I don't
just back
know.
to A4 might if A5 prompting D2 and after D2, then you could go back to A4. Okay, but you have F3 here. So
Maybe hod-konem goes b5 because then if you take black infiltrates, so b5, maybe we have c5, then b4. I don't know.
yeah,
Okay, we
props to
have
Horse for
f5.
putting up tough defense here.
Yeah, again, you have to take now. Then knight takes, probably. Okay, but you see, this is tricky because Horus can definitely win this endgame.
Yeah, and the queen. Like I said, the problem is the pawns could be defended. The whole pawn chain could be defended really from like one pawn on G1, and even if he decides to take these pawns, likely the whole pawn chain could be defended from the queenside pawns. So Hode goes to clean up the pawns on the queen side.
I think he might want to go knight d5. For this reason, Horus goes h6. So if takes, you have f6. The black knight is trapped.
Yeah, preventing the sacrifice on d5 that would have busted open the pawn structure.
Yeah,
Uh,
I believe hod-konem is probably better,
yeah,
but
there's a
it's
lot of
tough
play
with the
here,
d-pawn
though.
as well.
It's a lot of danger for the queen to start to eat the pawns up from behind, but at some point you really have no choice to do that because if you don't, the pawns are just going to come crashing through. So even an immediate f7 and taking the knight on g8, or just taking the knight and pushing d4, d5 looks quite serious.
d6 is an interesting option because you can't advance on the g5 really because of these two black pawns. Like
I think he
g6,
has to
you just
take and then push
f7, f6
d5,
doesn't do
d6.
anything.
I'm
Okay,
assuming,
this is getting interesting.
and then you have f4,
Yes.
and like I said, the whole pawn base is really defended from g1. So the queen takes a really long time to get these pawns from behind. This is clearly winning for white, I'm pretty sure. Like I give the heuristic, 3 pawns on the 6th rank is usually better than the king and rook. I mean, he's going to be forced to push e7
Okay, now
unless
queen e6. Queen e6.
queen
Then
e6.
white should be in Zugzwang.
Well, you can be able to push here and like this.
Yeah, but if you go h5, takes, queen will take on e5. So maybe you have to capture on h6 first. Maybe black goes h takes g5 here.
No. Yeah, so are we gonna get these pawns coming in? I assume we're gonna see g5 here. Otherwise, rook takes f6 is. Okay, that's a pretty interesting move. Well, that's an interesting move. Yeah, he has to sacrifice the queen.
I think black is winning here.
I think he's got to play h5 first.
Yeah, rook should be able to defend this. Yeah, black is winning. Rook d8 simply. Yeah.
Okay, Horus may be regretting giving the championship up by offering that draw. So now he's in a must-win situation. I mean, obviously, white. It's harder to win with white than black. But now Horus with a must-win situation. Let's see what he tries.
Yeah. Okay. If Konem wins, 7-5 is it? I think 7-5 the match is won because it's a set of 2 games. If you win 2-0, that's it.
And he might be conferring with Dude or the moderators. I'm not sure. Okay, so we get the e6 again.
c6, b6, I guess. Yeah, f5, b6. This is what trolls play. They infiltrate on the queen side. I think you should just take on b6. Or maybe, yeah, don't overcomplicate things. Okay, knight takes. Yeah, now rook controls the whole a file. This is good, but maybe white goes c5. Okay, b7. Black must give up their bishop.
It allows the queen. And that's crazy, allowing him to get the queen.
Okay, that's interesting. But I mean, the only way black would win is if they clean out all the pawns. Then with as many pieces you can trap the queen.
Horus, I don't know if he's goofing off, fooling around. And 2 queens, yeah, I mean, you might be able to force a trade, but
With so many pawns, hod-konem can definitely exchange many of black's pieces.
or he minimally has a draw. He could have done just a perpetual check. I'm not sure if the rules would have gave him a victory on a draw too, but Horus has to start eating these queenside pawns up. I mean, kind of weird. It almost looks like Horus purposely lost this match. I mean, he had a winning game. He offered the draw, and now he's just playing questionable lines in such a pivotal game. We'll see if he comes on for an interview afterwards, but now he's in a must-win situation.
Yeah, I mean, in case of a draw, hod-konem still wins. Because even number of games, one player has an advantage, thus they win in tie breaks.
draw is winning for white, so perpetual does not help Horus. I'm not sure why he didn't play a6 there. Well, now this might be winning for. Now this looks winning for black. And he could have came
And
with
he
the other.
dropped the queen. I'm not sure. We have queen a8, queen a7, queen c6, but then queen d5, queen d7. No, sorry, queen d7, queen a7,
Just
queen
knight
6, queen
here.
d7.
Knight a7 forces the queen.
Also works. Man.
Wow, so Horus somehow likely to win now. I mean, queen takes, bishop takes. You still got the knight, the queen. I mean, there's still some residual chances for white, so I assume we're going to see queen takes queen, and probably bishop takes queen, and then the queen.
Yeah, now it's dead lost. I mean, at this point, anything can happen, but I think black should win this.
Yeah, I mean, he could even play knight c6 to slow down f5. And he could try. He has to try something, but
Queen takes c5, no. Yeah.
It's really slow.
You can take with knight, or you can go queen d5. Anything wins at this point.
Okay, so we're getting some serious overtime. I guess Horus decided to give us some actions, try to make it exciting, and that he gave us. And so we will see 2 more games. There's kind of low energy commentary here, so it's a little mind-boggling Horus's strategy here. But it somehow is working. I mean, this is just completely winning. So
Okay, now we have 6-6. And let's see who wins this game. They will have an advantage.
yeah, so we've been seeing a variety of openings. Previous years' finals have been a lot of times the same opening, multiple games in the match, or 1 or 2 openings that define the match. Here, I'm not sure. I don't think we've really seen any opening played more than twice. And it's tough to know the preparation. I haven't been following enough to Horde in general to know whether these lines are new or preparation or old, or we'll see if the players come on for an interview after, and we'll ask them about their opening preparation.
Okay, it looks like Horus is taking a break. Okay, he's back. e5. Now let's see what hod-konem does. Maybe we will have another crazy opening. Okay, just e5, e6, f6. Hod-konem plays this with white a lot.
Yeah, we saw this in the last match that Hode won, and I think Horus was actually black here, so that Hode had played this against Horus and actually won. Jeroen Moorchess was commenting on that, where he had done quite a bit of research on these f6 lines. They generally favor black to put yourself into a holding pattern.
Yes, but in this case, hod-konem wants to infiltrate with knight e7, knight g6. I'm not sure how white is preventing this. I expected maybe f5, f6 now to shut it down, but with e5, okay, maybe still queen d8, e4, knight e7. I think Horus might have to give up a pawn on g6 completely. But then
You say to
it
play
looks like,
g6. Next
yeah,
next move to play g6 in order to prevent the
looks like
infiltration.
hod-konem can build a very strong fortress here.
Yeah, so after the queen retreat, Horus could either play g6 to prevent the knight infiltration. Okay, that's what he goes for. And now presumably we're going to see g5, and we'll have a holding pattern on the light squares, and then presumably it'll be a slow play. I mean, he doesn't actually have to play g5 here. He doesn't have to play g5 right away. So likely we'll see some sort of holding pattern, and white is going to advance all of the pawns on the queen side. And eventually we'll reach some sort of Zugzwang situation where white has to start sacrificing pawns. We'll see at some point if black decides. There's still some resolution on the king side that Horus has not played g5. And he might not have to, but if he doesn't play g5, that could... Okay, so he immediately pushes d5. I guess it's now or never, because...
Maybe a bit risky.
Well, you could try to prevent him and eventually try to thin out. So he allowed it, and so he pushed right away. So might as well. White generally had the chance to take the full open center. It's often you should do it. So he did it, and white will be able to advance all of these pawns. And then we'll hit the point where this might be winning for white. I don't really see a holding pattern here.
Okay, he wants to go knight b6 now. c4,
Okay.
he could have taken on before, he could have won a pawn on before, but he does do this now. We have another infiltration.
But it's slow, and the queen is not going to have an easy time getting over there. Okay, he doesn't...
Okay, now we might have maybe rook takes, but again, c3, b3, and there is no en passant. That's funny. So hod-konem is attempting to infiltrate still.
So do we see pawn? He takes the rook. And there's no en passant, so I'm not sure what black's plan is here. I mean, obviously he could try to win this pawn. I mean, he might as well win the pawn on c5 if he's got nothing better, but I don't think winning the pawn on c5 is going to be sufficient. Now you got c3 and d4 and d2.
Okay, now maybe we have knight to a4.
I mean, how does the knight even get to a4? I mean, the bishop can't. I mean, if the bishop retreats, this pawn could immediately come to d6. I mean, Hode's got almost no time, so props to Horus. It looks like he is likely to win this game. There's nothing. The queen is completely trapped offside on the queen side. There's really nothing he could do to stop the rolling of the pawns. I mean, eventually he could just sack. Eventually he's going to have to play g4. He could advance the f pawns or advance in the center a little bit beforehand.
Yeah, it's dangerous for sure. But hod-konem has no choice but to infiltrate.
So he
Horus
sacrificed the
one
pawn on d6. I mean, he didn't have to, but this is
Yeah, I
quite
thought it's
dangerous.
to prevent knight d7, I think. And now we just take the knight. Okay, black has queen a5 bishop b4, but then with 2 pieces left, white should still be better. Now I don't quite understand what hod-konem was trying to do here. Probably just time travel moves, because yeah, no progress here for black.
And the queen's not really even threatening to do anything. I mean, these moves are all strong. There's really nothing Hode could do. There's just a slow grind, a slow, painful loss. Although there's still fight left in it, so it's one of those pure suffering. Like pure suffering to just sit here in black and hope somehow you're not
Yeah,
losing.
you can play for like 20 moves, but not much hope. I mean, you can always make a mistake.
Yeah, both
But,
players down to about 10
yeah.
seconds, 2-second increment. Okay, so Hode just resigns, and Horus now, with that extremely risky giving the draw and allowing overtime and allowing the queen, allowing white to get a queen last time. Now Horus has black for game and match. I guess that's. Do you predicted an 8-6 Horus victory?
No, I predicted that the score will be. I mean, they both had 6 versus 6. I predicted someone will win. Okay, now in this case, Horus has not to lose. If Horus doesn't lose, he's gonna be champion.
Yeah, so last black we saw that really strange opening that I can't imagine was good, but somehow Horus ended up winning. So here if we see h5, we see knight e7, the main line on the king side. No.
Oh,
Okay.
we have the line Horus always plays. He always goes for knight d5, then c6, b6 stuff, because you see there are only 2 pawns on the d file. Horus played this against me in my match, and black usually has an edge here, because white center is a bit too weak. And as you will see, Horus will probably infiltrate here.
Yeah, I mean the last one somehow he had that crazy line where he allowed white to get a queen here. I mean he could.
Yeah, so knight d4 threatened. That's a good move actually.
Yeah, because even if he pushes, the taking the knight's not a threat.
I really like black's position. Just rook takes b3, and then you bulldoze the a file.
Yeah, there should be a breakthrough. Bishop coming back or the knight. This is probably winning for black. Let's see. He has to prove it a little bit more, but this is probably already winning for black. I mean, bishop takes a3 or just the queen over. Okay, yeah, he doesn't even have to wait. Yeah, the bishop could work its way back. He doesn't even need to. He doesn't need to give up the bishop. This bishop will likely prove useful coming back to help defend the pawns.
Yes, this bishop is definitely gonna help. And black queen just goes to e1, f1, g1, and so on.
Okay, he doesn't
So
take
Horus
pawn
should
to
definitely win
h4.
this.
Is he planning on castling? He could have taken the pawn on h4. I guess because he has the 2 bishops.
Castles, nice move. You can just take on e6 now.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe there must have been a misclick
Take back?
because they took back a move.
I don't know. You can't. It's hard to imagine. You can't do take back in the World Championship. What happened there?
I don't know.
And even if it was a misclick or something, I've never seen a take. I mean, the take back is when they're playing, the take back's a discretion of the players, but that has to be. I can't imagine the rules allow offering a take back under any circumstance in the World Championship. But that's what happened. This
Yeah,
should
maybe
be
if you have
no matter
misclicks,
what.
it's just sportsmanship to make take it back. I mean, I would allow it if it was like.
No, you can't
really-
allow take backs. Like the play, you can't offer sportsmanship of like allowing a take back in the World Championship. I mean, even if it was like a misclick or something like. I mean, you have to. Okay, like it's a. There's no prizes. It's not like official FIDE or something.
Yeah, I mean,
like
nobody's banned take backs. Maybe next year you'll make different rules.
I mean, it's nice. Okay, that they're friendly and have good sportsmanship, but like no, I don't think that it doesn't really matter because this should be easily winning for white no matter what. I mean, these pawns pushing aren't going to be effective.
Yeah,
Bishops
e7
can
you
be
must take
effective.
with the bishop. e7, make sure not to go king. Yeah, so just bishop d7
Bishop
here.
d7. There's no threat. The bishop could
Yeah,
take
that
the
defends
pawns
the
fall
square.
or the queen.
Bishop d7, e5, then e6 is threatened, but you can go bishop takes e7, for example, still winning. Here, bishop e8, still winning, yes. Just bishop e8.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the
that's
queen
it.
will defend the queening square. After f7, the sacrifice, the queen will defend the double queen threat. I mean, you just play queen d5 and force f7.
Looks like Horus is winning.
Okay, so
Okay, that's it. 8 to 6. It was a tough match with many complicated games, and it wasn't always clear who was gonna win.
okay, so I'm sending the link to. I sent it to Dude, the organizer with Matvei and Hode and Horus. Hopefully, all three of them will join. So we do have a repeat world champion, Horus. Interesting match. If Matvei wants to stick around and go over all the games one by one, we could do that. Hopefully, we'll get an interview with Horus. So, any comments you have on the match and
Me?
the outcome? Are you interested in going through the games one by one? I mean, last year Horace joined us and we went through the games one by one
Yeah,
with
I mean, if
Horace and
nobody joins, we can
Subdivision.
go through the games, sure. But
So,
I would expect maybe Dude to join, maybe Horus. I mean, if he's offline, then unfortunately no. hod-konem, I don't really expect him to join, sadly.
well, we'll give him a minute or see if there's a message, and then maybe we'll just start looking through the games. I guess I mean, they chose the time, so it's if they're both in Eastern Europe, Russia, it's early morning or very late for them. Although the time, as I said, was chosen by them. So
Yeah, I mean it's 3 a.m. Where they live, I suppose. Just UTC +3.
yeah, I'm just making the point that they're the ones who chose that time.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're both grown-up men, so as you see, they don't sleep around this time.
Yeah, it's not like we chose the time and forced them to play at this time. So they chose this time, presumably. me see if I get. Okay, dude's not going to be able to join.
That's sad.
Let me okay, I guess unless they're joining, we might as well just start going over the games. Unless you got something else you want to say or do.
Okay, so I suppose we're just gonna go game by game.
Yeah, so this is the first game. Horse was white, and we have the immediate attempt for the breakthrough on the H file, which he allows. He doesn't go for the generic crab, like the old school crab that goes for C6 immediately by taking control of the center. But here by H6 and C6, preventing an easy breakthrough. However, okay. So the computer lights black the whole time. I mean, there is some potential for mistakes for counterplay, but it doesn't materialize, and black kind of just got an easy win here in the first round. Any thoughts or points you want me to look back on? But we lost Matvei. Okay, so let's see if Matvei comes back, and I'll at least you'll go over with the computer analysis to
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, so at least for the due diligence, whether they join or not, we'll go over the game. So did you have any comment on the first game? It was kind of just a straightforward win for black. He went into an opening that the computer thinks is just winning for black, and that was it.
Okay, well, let me see. First game.
Do you want to look back? So I finished the first game. It was kind of uneventful win for black.
Yeah, first game, black just has an edge in the opening if they play correctly, and he infiltrated. Yeah, it was one-sided. Okay. Yeah, we can go to the second game.
So here we had the interesting. So
yeah, I rarely trade twice on e6 because you give up too much space, but of course you can play this opening. Bishop c4, very aggressive, and now he thinned out the d file.
Yeah, computer really likes white here. That
yeah, it underestimates infiltration. You see, it's only +1 now once you go with the queen. I think what contributed to this, I don't think 12 d4 was necessary, because if you go 12 d4, yeah, you just don't defend c4 anymore, because you could have played d3, then c4 would have been defended after a4, rook takes a4 and such.
yeah, so strategically a bad decision there.
And
Although
now I thought maybe black would infiltrate, but apparently you could also shuffle, because as you see, white is kind of paralyzed. And we had this interesting endgame where Horus just made another queen.
yeah, he was just completely winning here. So this, I mean, it's some. Oh, Queen
I do not
E1.
understand.
Yeah, Queen
apparently you
E1,
just
and then
wanna take the pawn right. Yeah, I mean, it's a very unnatural move, so it's completely understandable that you go queen f4 with 11 seconds anyways.
well, I mean, Queen F4 just doesn't work because G4 stops the pawn from hanging. So that's
Yeah,
just
but he went queen g3 afterwards. Yeah, not as effective, of course. I mean, I would
Okay,
not
it
have
loses
found
a
that.
tempo. It still should be winning for black.
If it's -4, it's still winning. This.
Okay,
Why
so
does,
he has to go to
what's the
H3.
difference? Oh, I see. On H3, you capture on C3, and then you defend the diagonal, I think.
Yeah, because that's the idea is H3 to pin, and then if this pawn pushes the queen, although then there's E5. No, you can't take here because the pawn.
Yeah, not this, but yeah, king just goes closer, and then yeah, but on H4 it didn't work.
So now this is winning for white, but somehow he draws.
Yeah, it's really strange endgame.
Yes, this is an interesting endgame. Maybe at some point, if Rune or Matvei or Horace at a later point want to do an in-depth study of what happened here. So I guess at this point it's going to be a draw no matter what.
Yes.
See, I mean, some of these games are worth a more in-depth study or looking, but it take too
we're just
long. For
gonna
the
look
purpose of this
briefly.
stream, we won't do a heavy analysis. I mean, if Horace showed up. Okay, so now Horace is white. This game, and we
And
have
as
the
I
main
said,
line.
BC on 9th move is more preferred because the d5 remains stronger, but Horus can play this, of course, if he wins, sure. Then we get the usual stuff, but then e6. And now hod-konem must have been better, but these endgames are totally possible to mess up.
There's a lot of play, and I couldn't imagine. I mean, Queen takes E1 just looks so obvious, but he ended up taking on C2. I guess it appeared like D4 right away. But yeah, at some point here, it starts
Once
to turn in
it's
white's
equal,
favor.
then white should be better. So I found the right idea with d6 and such. Now it's really hard for black.
Oh, H6 here. Yeah, so he wanted to play H6. He had a few times to play H6. Now black is winning again, so this. Like I said, this short time control. There was a lot of blunders
Yeah,
here.
but taken on before doesn't make any sense to me on the 42nd move.
Yeah, my computer likes E3 better than E4. And then when he makes a poor decision, now it's all. Okay, so that's 1.5, 1.5. This is game 4. Horse is black.
Then we get the Diablo Fortress. I mean, it's really strange because usually you would expect them to try to infiltrate. I mean, they always try to infiltrate. But in this case, black just wants to control the dark squares. And I assume Horus prepared this because nobody sacrificed the bishop on c5 before. People usually just went back with the bishop. But it's similar ideas, of course. And you see, Stockfish realizes it's not so good for white after all.
Close to the very end.
Yeah, but practically speaking, white has really good chances in such positions.
Yeah, it's much easier to make a mistake for.
Now the queen just gets overwhelmed.
Okay, that was a pretty nice white win for Hode, and that's 2.5, 1.5. So Hode takes an early lead. So this was interesting.
Yeah, it's a known line, but never seen at such level in such high stakes games.
Yeah, the computer likes black, and you had suggested the penetration on the A file with the rook lift, queen to A6, then rook to C4, C5, and then A5. But he didn't go for that, and he didn't even sack on C4. He just has a holding the victory. So here, yeah, I guess there was no difficulty. The rook sacrifice on E6. All these pawns are falling. Okay. So that was the biggest lead of the match. 3.5, 1.5, that we get this throwaway line with the immediate E5 pawn sacrifice to go for the immediate bishop E7. Yeah, computer really likes black here, but that could be overestimated.
Yeah, now if you go F5, the F5 is not so good for white anymore. And then we have all sorts of queen H8 stuff and with the knight. So basically what happened in the game is just infiltrated, and once infiltrated, it's black has chances again. I mean, probably hod-konem could have played differently with white in the opening. He didn't have to allow infiltration probably, but maybe Horse would have shuffled. And this endgame really strange, but yeah, ultimately winning for black.
Okay.
And
yeah,
in the
so
next game, we had another E5.
yeah, so Hode returns the favor and plays the same line on Horus. So something goes wrong here, and he doesn't have the easy victory that
I think he moved around with his pieces too much.
he
I mean,
really
he
just
still
blundered
does
here.
infiltrate.
So I guess G5 is probably preferable.
Yeah,
G5
but
might
you can
shut
see it's
down,
only +1, so maybe black could shuffle after G5.
or the knight is going to go H8 and G6, but
Yeah, also possible. But then we just had a total blunder.
so he resigns
And
here. I mean, the computer still favors white. I mean, maybe he blundered and he resigned.
yeah, it's psychological.
I mean, obviously there's still some play left in it, but yeah, I mean, can't imagine he meant to do that. But it's still close to it. There's still a lot of play in it, but he just
Yeah, maybe it's a
resigned.
lesson for us to not resign early. It's probably because of the H6 pawn, because king has to go near the pawn, but then white gets a sort of counterplay on the F, E, G files.
Well,
Because
I
yeah,
mean,
you
it's
can
not
just
even a
go
break
queen
here.
e1, for example. No, you don't have to move this pawn. You don't have to move this. It's a dangerous pawn. If black wastes time and captures the pawn with the queen, white may be able to close the gaps, so that black queen won't be able to infiltrate anymore. So black king has to guard the pawn. So you can't push h7 immediately, obviously.
Okay, but he didn't think it through, and he just
Yeah.
resigned, and now he's down 4.5, 2.5, and he's in this must-win situation because 5.5 wins the series. So Horus gets the 2 clutch wins. We have the return to the main line, but here Hode chooses E6, and Horus has a whole bunch of options. He chooses to retreat the bishop. And then you mentioned, this sacrifice, this tactic. If C5 was just a mistake, or he had no choice. I mean,
If I remember correctly, this is a known line. And like if you don't go c5, black will go c6 probably by himself and gain more space on the queen side. So infiltration really seems like inevitable.
it was just a tactic. It was similar to the first match where
Yeah,
you know,
maybe hod-konem didn't know this line, but Horus knew this line. I forgot about this line, but I used to know it.
then from here, it's relatively a clean, easy victory. He chooses to, I guess it's the best defense, just letting the pawn take the rook. And nothing. Okay, so this was a crazy game. Horus. No, is this okay? So Horus in another must-win situation for white. We get a similar position, but instead of just sacrificing the e pawn, it's traded like normal. And Hod's main strategy of trying to open up the H file.
Yeah, and maybe f6 was a little bit weird, so he should have tried to play around on the king side a bit differently. I mean, yes, Stockfish says it's still a bit better for black.
Yeah, and just like the cinnamon heuristic, like it's getting far in the game without the breakthrough, and here you still don't have the breakthrough. But yeah, black should be better. So what
But
goes
again,
wrong here?
probably allowing the pawns to advance as far with
F5?
the h-pawn and so on.
It's interesting that that's computer wants H5, F5.
Yeah, because it takes f5 doesn't work, queen takes d5, and then you threaten the pawn. Yeah, it's a nice move. But ultimately, you still will have to find a way to infiltrate.
Yeah, now the infiltration is just taking so long that it's already in white's favor. And here it's
Yeah, I mean, it's only thanks to the h-pawn, I believe. Without the h-pawn, black would have been winning.
yeah, this was
Yeah,
quite
now
pretty. This nice board stranglehold white victory. The stalemate doesn't work. Okay, so we got some pretty good excitement there. And then we have the 10th game. According to Dude, a draw, a win. It was 4.5, 4.5. So whoever won this game would have won the championship. Horus has black, obviously to his favor, and Hode plays into this old line that Mindhunter used to play, but basically is just favorable, almost winning for black. Even here to allow, do you allow this? Maybe I was wrong. I thought he took a draw.
Yeah, maybe they misplayed it somewhere, but after
Oh, here it is. B6 is just a horrible move.
Yeah, I mentioned that it was like completely winning for black.
Well, I mean, here, if, I'm saying B6 is a losing move. And whatever reason, he offered him a draw. Like, if he hadn't played B6, like, there's still play. Maybe the draw makes sense. After B6, taking here, I mean, it's just going to be game over. The B pawn's going to fall. It's an easy game over. So he offered him a draw in a clearly winning position, leading to overtime. And according to the rules, had he won that game, he would have just won the match there. But maybe whatever reason, he offered him the draw, and we got overtime. In first game of overtime, Hode has black. Okay, and you had mentioned the strategy right away with the long knight maneuvers for the breakthrough. And the maneuver eventually breaks through, and this game was basically a win for black the whole time. White was never able to get significant counterplay. Yeah, the queen sack.
Yeah, nice queen sack.
Interesting. Just so he didn't actually have to sack the queen because here he couldn't take the rook, but just queen takes.
Yeah, but this isn't so easy to see, I guess. And
Yeah, well, it's just a zugzwang because
yeah,
the pawn's not going to be able to queen. But he sacks the queen. That's more than sufficient for an easy victory.
and I mean in general we had like many crazy games, and it's really nice to see games with high stakes that are really competitive and also fun to watch. Because usually what happens, like two people just go at each other and try hard, but this match was different.
Yeah, and I guess Horace giving the fans some excitement. Putting so here we get a. Yeah, I think he
As I said,
messes up.
pros usually play this idea. It's quite common, but not really professional. At least I don't consider it professional. But as you see, Black gets really good attacks.
Yeah, when they hear this crazy move of, and ironically, the computer doesn't like.
Yeah, but still after the takes, there will be eventually infiltration. So Black should be better, I believe.
Well, the
It
computer
takes,
likes
bishop
white
takes, and so on.
just taking.
Yeah, just bishop takes, b7.
But my computer still likes white here. I'm not sure if that's whatever the cause here, but
Yeah,
so
but Black will
ironically, the
infiltrate
computer
with
does not.
knight on a4 or maybe a different way. I mean, Black usually finds a way to do something in these positions, even if you don't see it immediately.
It's crazy that queening here is a blunder according to the computer.
Yeah, and bishop f5 was a nice maneuver, but now there was
Okay,
just a
so here,
perpetual. But we have to point out, even if the perpetual happened,
yeah,
even
I
if it
think if he, I
happened,
think it would have won the match. I mean, according to the rules, if he'd
yeah,
just done the perpetual check, Hode would have been current champion now.
yeah, maybe he didn't read the rules. Maybe he forgot about it.
But
But
at this point,
that's
no.
that's fake.
Yeah, too bad Horace didn't do an interview because I wonder if he had looked into lines like this. I've never really seen a line like this where you would allow where the best move is to allow white to get us the queen. And then here it's just an easy win. Yeah, so too bad Horace wasn't able to join for an interview.
Yeah.
That was definitely some excitement, especially considering that was game match. If he had lost that game, it would have been Hode, and then Hode probably could have taken a perpetual check to win the match. But now it's tied 6-6, and Horace ends up winning the next two games. And this
And
critical white win with the immediate f6.
last year I had a game with Diablo where I was black, and the thing was I also had to allow him to make a queen, but he didn't have as many pawns. He still had many pawns, but eventually I cleared everything out and won. But this game was like on another level because there were pawns on every flank for white. They had the queen, but it got trapped. This was even crazier. Like the craziest hard game I have seen in a while.
So the computer, I mean, we look g6 is the only way to stop the knight infiltration on the h file. The
Yeah.
computer, I guess, prefers to let the infiltration.
Yeah, it just underestimates.
Like you said, he could have played g4.
I believe like takes, rook takes, queen to f4 and so on maybe. He missed before, as I said. Could have taken and just similar ideas with knight b6 and so on, but he just had a free pawn. I mean, I believe he could have won this.
Yeah, I don't know if he just missed it. He's
Probably
both of
missed.
you some time, but the queen side, even here, yeah, this. Okay, Peter actually likes b3.
Yeah, it's not an obvious move, and now it's just shut down.
Just takes way too long to get on the queen side. That I mean, here was looking like white was already winning, but bishop x d6. So here he sacrifices the pawn, sacrifices the knight.
And he didn't think about queen a5 and bishop f4 and such. But if
This bishop
stock
h6.
space +1, +2, white should be better. And practically speaking, even more better.
Yeah, but bishop h6 is a useless move. And now it's looking GG. Although, and that sacrifice is premature. So
Yeah, I mean, there was still play, maybe queen e7, queen f6, rook g6, but this is just completely lost. Because you can't even infiltrate, just f3, g2, that's it.
so he gets that crucial victory. And now Horace last black for the match. And instead of taking on f5, he takes on d5.
Yeah, but this is one of his favorite openings. And Horace has done this for 2 years at this point. And again, d5 was weak, so we had this knight d4 threat.
Okay, so the computer, this move sometimes interesting of just sacrificing the pawn with b7.
Yeah, but still black should infiltrate. Even if it says +1, it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah. Just see if he's just infiltrating and keeping his pieces, and now he could have taken h4. It doesn't matter. He castles, and it's easy victory. Okay, so there you have it. That is the finish of our match. So I appreciate Matvei for reaching out, asking me to stream, joining as a co-host. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get Horace or Dude or Hode on for interviews. We had an exciting. I put this as the 2026 World Championship. I mean, it was supposed to be from the 2025 cycle, I guess, or either they didn't have a 2025 champion. Do you know what the story is with that?
Yeah, it was meant to be the 2025, but we only there were preparations in December, but it only started like right at the beginning of January. So there will be a 2026 or championship. It's not clear. Maybe it will be like the end of this year, or maybe a bit later. Maybe nobody organizes it. We will see. But
I
this
mean,
is
for
going to
my
be 2025.
stream, I mean, how Leechess might do something different. For my stream, I'm just calling it the 2026 World Championship because I mean it's already April. What sense does it make the 2025 championship is played in April 2026? But that means that there was no 2025 champion. So Horace would be champion.
No, it was meant to be 2025, but it was just a bit late. So
It's not a
when
bit late.
another championship
It's
comes,
already April. I mean, you can't
that's
play. I
right.
mean, you could call it, but like, I mean, they'll figure it out. But like, I on my stream, I'm keeping it 2026.
Yeah,
But
of course you
if
can do
it's
that.
2026, that means there is no 2025 champion.
Yeah, we had many people be really confused. Like, which year is it? and such.
Well, we missed a year. It happens because the
Yeah.
organization. But either way, Horace, this one was close. Hode. I mean, last year there was not a grand final. Stubborn Fish beat you in the semifinals, and then Horace beat Stubborn Fish in the first match. Then didn't require a grand final 20-game match. Previous years there was grand finals. Cinnamon 20-game match. I have to look through the previous years. My YouTube stream has many of them where some year, because of the double elimination, many years there is not the grand 20 final game, but just the winner wins undefeated in the 10-game match, not requiring this. So this year we had excitement where Hode came back and beat Horace, and it was not, I'm sorry, it was not the 20-game grand finals, just a second match, as opposed to previous years that had a 20-game grand final. So we'll see if next year, if there's a rule change, if maybe more people step up, want to donate money for prize fund, or more streamers, or more interest, or God forbid it dies out and there's no world championship. But we'll see. Appreciate Matvei and Dude stepping up to organize all the players that played. Put work advancing the game, and honored to stream this. So I'll let Matvei close it out with any comments you want to add about the championship, or the future of Horde competition, what's coming up next year's championship, or anything you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm satisfied with this championship this year. We had as many players as last year, and it was really nice that you also managed to stream it, especially the finals. And I think the competition was decent. We had some new
But is
players, for
Fantastic Horde
example.
coach? Is Fantastic the same as
Yes,
Horde coach?
yes, it's
So he's a former world champion. He's mentioning that this is the first time we've had back-to-back world champion, as stubborn as Mindhunter won twice, but was interrupted by Cinnamon that year that he slept on and didn't take him seriously. So this is the first time we've had a back-to-back Horde champion. We have our former
Yeah,
world
that's right.
champion.
So Horus will be maybe remembered more than other world champions. And yeah, it's great that Horus managed to play this year. And hod-konem didn't play last year. He played with Horde coach in 2023, but last championship he didn't play. This one he played. He made it to the finals again. And yeah, there were many high-level matches, and I hope that there will be another Horde World Championship again, maybe at the end of this year, maybe like January. I
I guess
guess I
your
will
strategy,
organize it as well.
I guess now players that never won a championship, and like obviously you do quite well in arenas or the Shield, better than Horus usually. However, in match play, Horus has proven to won now back-to-back champion. So despite you outperforming him sometimes in the rating chart or in Shield or tournaments, he's been able to outperform in match play. So I'm not sure for yourself if you still like winning the Shield or the arenas or the rating chart versus match play, and what is it that Horus is doing that despite not being the quickest player winning the Shield or the tournaments, that he's been able to excel in match play.
I mean, he probably
Like,
made a lot of preparations, but the thing is, he just doesn't play in Shields and big tournaments as often, and my individual score with him is slightly in favor of Horus, so he just plays on my level and more or less better, and in matches he manages to outperform me. Maybe I play too slowly, maybe I take the games too seriously. There are psychological factors as well, and yeah, I mean,
I assume like
satisfied.
you're like I said, you're the strongest player to have not won the world championship that's actively competitive. But now it's been 2 years in a row where Horus was able, or you didn't play Horus in this year's
I
directly.
did, I did.
Oh, you did. So yeah, so it's 2 years in a row now that Horus has been able to best you in match play. We'll see next year if you come up with something, or both of you stick at the game.
Yeah, what's interesting, he also beat me in 2023. So last year, so 3 years, Horus beat me in matches in
I mean, it's
HPC.
possible also that someone like Rune, or there's factors of helping and using engines. I have not ran an engine. I don't know if Crazy Ara is still the strongest engine, or if there's other variant engines to really do research on opening lines or opening prep, finding new moves. So when I was more active, trying to you working with more chess when Crazy Ara first came out. Crazy Ara was first for Crazy House. That did the Google, as opposed to the Stockfish that used a different method, the Monte Carlo simulation, and then they opened Crazy Ara to be able to be used on all the variants, and it was basically able to search as powerful as your computer. You could search lines, and through that, more chess. Being active became one of the top players with some of the best opening lines in preparation. And I don't know if anyone is doing that kind of research. I mean, I don't, as far as I know, no one is doing serious research using an engine, trying to develop all sorts of opening novelties. It's more likely that people like you they're just playing a lot and discovering new things, or trial and error, or different things. But if it got more popular, presumably someone would run an engine. And it's unclear how much more there is to discover in Horde. If I was even discussing with Rune. Um, it's still undetermined whether black is winning by force. I mean, I know for years it was thought that the rook shuffle was winning, or Rune for a while had thought or the Crazy Ara demonstrated that basically it's a forced win for black with best play. Although I'm not sure where the consensus now is among the top players, if it's still a forced win for black, or if there is much technical research and having a computer trying to answer that, or a
Yeah, I
game
mean,
approach.
I've always considered the shuffle winning for black, and it just still like practically we haven't discovered every possible line, but it's almost certain that black always has a way to come out on top. And for openings, as you see, maybe Rune developed deep theory with uh,
Crazy Ara.
strange engines, yeah,
Crazy
Crazy
Ara.
Ara and so on. But
Crazy
for
Ara is on
example,
Lichess. You could still download it. Anybody, Crazy Ara is freeware. It was created as a PhD research project by, I think, Hungarian computer science researchers.
yeah,
So you
you
just look
you
up
told me
Crazy
about it
Ara on
once.
Lichess and download that engine. Should anybody watch this
Yeah, yeah.
want to run it?
But for me, I'm personally satisfied with Stockfish, and when I analyze something, I just use Stockfish for it, and I think
On Crazy Ara, you could
I
actually let
should do
sit
it.
for hours and hours, and Rune did that for a period. Like Rune was probably spending hours every day, making videos, doing the studies, coming up with his training program, but also just letting Crazy Ara run on these different openings. So I would not be surprised if nobody has done deeper research than Rune, and Rune probably has not really done that kind of research for a few years. So
Yeah, that's probably true.
the state of Horde theory has not really been advanced. Crazy House is similar. I mean, because the general decline, the chess boom post COVID-19, Queen's Gambit, it's on a decline, and there's less people playing variants in chess online in general. So at that point, diminishing returns. There's nobody really using top computer software to try to solve Horde, or even to try to win the championship. But that leaves opportunity. Like, should you really want to become world champion, um, you could do that kind of work, or maybe the game will grow. Chess.com could have like a Horde sponsored Horde World Championship. They haven't so far, but that's always possible. Or anybody watching this that wants to promote the game and has resources or ideas, feel free to reach out. And I guess without that, I'll thank Matvei for joining in his commentary. And if Matvei is interested in just doing some technical streams, like not matches but review of games, I know you've already created studies of some of the match and even given commentary. So if you wanted to do a long stream, I think Rune was interested in joining of highlights or matches, or maybe we could even do one shorter stream that doesn't have such in-depth analysis, is more highlights, tactics, advice for beginners, and then maybe a deeper long stream that would be in-depth analysis. But I'm open to doing that, so you could reach out, and if there's interest, I'm happy to. I love the game of Horde, and so happy to work together with Matvei or any of the other players that want to advance, promote Horde, even just theory or training introductory videos.
Yeah, I'm open to making like any Horde content on the finals, and I think like you're right that the importance of theory maybe has declined a bit, maybe it has lost quality, but you see, also it's an important aspect how players navigate complicated positions and end games, and I think it's more important who manages to come out on top in a tough end game like many we had in this match. I think it's more important that memorizing theory, or at least it's more respectable in my opinion, more honorable. But of course, both things are important. And I
And we
haven't
have
come
Horde
up with
Coach here in the
stuff.
chat who, for a period of time, was probably the world expert on the rook shuffle and had worked with Rune directly. So, and then this match, we really only saw 2 rook shuffles in the previous match, and in both of those, Horace played an inferior line. So, like I said, this world championship was not really that theoretical advancement.
Yeah,
Maybe if we went over some of those lines, might have been advancements in theory. And like I said, Horace did not come on for an interview or Hode to discuss their opening preparation. And actually, Rune was pushing back where originally he was making videos and just putting everything out, and now he's kind of like, well, I'd rather just keep the secret so that he could win or help other people win than to promote the game and make videos. But for
yeah,
me, like, I would just put it out there. I don't plan on being world champion. I'm too old. Unlikely I could, and so I'm happy. I'm not trying to um, discover secrets, so I'll be able to win. I put it straight out there for public consumption.
yeah. I also made an observation that Horus isn't uh, really familiar with the shuffle. He had like a strange game even in the last match with hod-konem where he just got a losing position,
But there were
resolved
no
very
A5.
quickly.
I mean, previous years the shuffle was so people, almost every world championship match opened up with one A5 to prevent
Yeah,
the rook
that's right.
shuffle. So there was maybe there was only 1 or 2 A5s in any of the matches between Hode and Horus. So there wasn't even a fear of the rook shuffle that people even had to consider playing A5 to prevent it.
Yeah, like the way I see it, I think I am quite good with the rook shuffle. For example, Wildcats is an expert in the shuffle now with black, and I managed to beat him as black in the shuffle, so basically reversed. And
In
I
match
beat
play,
Varensbot a few times in the shuffle. Yeah, okay,
and did
actually
you
one
play
time.
Wildcats in this series in a match?
No, I mean Wildcats plays many games with Varensbot as black in the shuffle, so I suppose he has interesting lines with white and a lot of knowledge there, and I can beat him with black in the shuffle and with white sometimes too. But against Wildcats, I avoid the shuffle most of the time, but other players they just go for normal theory. And for me as black, it's just more fun to play normal moves, but I also can play the shuffle, of course.
Well, if you want to schedule it right now or think about it before I wrap up, we could do it in the next week or two if you have already done the research of, doing an overview of all of the key games or theory, and maybe even pull out a few of Wildcats games where he lost in the rook shuffle. Man, it's kind of a lot of work, but if you want to do the work, I'm happy to. You want to do the work and you want to publicize it to the general public, I'll be happy to stream with you.
Yeah,
So
maybe
that's
next week
So yeah,
because
you just message me anytime on Lee Chess, and we'll
yeah.
figure out a time, and hopefully I'll post in advance. And if Rune or any the other players, and if there's interest, I wrote that blog post on Horde and was thinking about trying to write some introductory material. Rune was trying to write a book on Horde introductory material, but now he's backing off. He doesn't, he only wants to, whatever. But there's still demand for introductory material as opposed to analysis for top players. So I would do analysis for the top players because that's what the top players like to do. But I think it's more for growing the game. If I were going to put the effort in, I'd probably try to create more introductory materials, like how you get from novice to intermediate and intermediate to advanced, as opposed to like Matvei or the World Championship cycle that's mostly only useful to the already advanced players that understand advanced strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about making content. I have a few useful studies with puzzles and such, but I like mostly I just play Horde, so I don't produce content, but it's definitely an option to consider. But well, for now it's really late here, and I think I'm just gonna go to sleep. So thanks again for streaming.
Okay, appreciate you joining the commentary. So, like I said, anyone wants to promote the game, feel free to reach out and we'll talk, or you find me on Chess. And I'm going to be doing a stream maybe next week also, just an overview of these studies, not related to Horde, but chess training. So you follow me on social media or check in general. So with that, God bless. Congratulations to Horace, and props for Hode putting up an extremely tough fight. Dude, the organizers, Matvei commentary, and God bless.